So what's next is a great question, isn't it? Because we feel like we're on the brink of something, don't we? Like something is next, something is coming, something big. I think we're at a tipping point, especially as it pertains to technology. We've heard about this AI, this artificial intelligence. Well, it's crossed an astounding milestone recently. It has learned how to learn, and it is evolving at an astonishing pace. Some of the best thinkers in the land believe that this new artificial intelligence will fundamentally change our world, even alter the evolutionary path of our species. I'm not kidding. A lot of people, we've heard it, they say it's going to come along and it's going to take a bunch of jobs. Some people say, don't worry, it's like the Industrial Revolution. It's going to create jobs. But for those of us who own businesses, who hire and have employees, we have seen this enemy for a long time. And sometimes it feels like you own a technology company or you come to discover that you are competing with one. But I am not here to give a talk about technology. What I wanted to come here and do today was share with you what some of the world's best entrepreneurs can teach us about the competitive advantage, the extraordinary advantage of just being really good at being human. Because we kind of suck at being robots, don't we? We're really not built for that. But I believe there is some good news. In fact, I think there's great news. I believe we have an advantage, a competitive, actually an adaptive advantage, sort of a humans only, no robots allowed kind of advantage. And that's why I'm here. That's what I wanted to share with you today. So for the last 15 years, I've had this incredible opportunity to work closely with a small group of some of the world's most successful entrepreneurs. About 400 of the top 1 to 1.5% income earners in the US, UK, and Canada. So these are 25-year industry veterans, absolute pioneers, mavericks, people you'd know, a whole host of folks you've never heard of, but they're crushing it out there in small towns all over the place. What you also see with this group is that they look at tackling the question of business from a really interesting, unique perspective. And it comes down to business models, a lot of it. So the way I've come to recognize is that there really are only two business models. And you may say, hey, does this apply to me? And absolutely it does, because the lessons learned from how they decide are applicable if you're a student, they're applicable if you're a member of a team somewhere. These are the lessons for being wildly successful in this new era. So here's the way this plays out. There's two models. This one is the product-based model. This one is the client-based model. The product-based model is all about, we have a product, now let's find a market. So this one's about ubiquity, economies of scale, high transaction volumes, right? This is looking for wide distribution. This one goes wide. And we've seen this with some of the most successful businesses on the planet. Like Henry Ford is sort of the pioneer of exploiting this idea. You take a technology, the assembly line, and you drive down costs, you communicate those to customers, and you build yourself an empire. You corner an entire market doing this. Awesome. This totally works. This is the client-centered model. If this is share of market, this is share of wallet. This is finding the tribe that you connect with. This is about values. This is aligning about a shared understanding, a shared story, needs. And if this is about transaction volume, this is about routine purchases. This is about a lifetime of transactions sometimes, and creating custom solutions over and over again for just that tribe. It's a whole different set of skills. But of course, this one works. Deep certainly works. What doesn't work? What doesn't work is this, because these aren't really buckets. They're actually like foxholes. This one works. This one works. What's the in-between? It's no man's land, right? This is where businesses go to die. They don't make decisions, and they can't exploit the economies of scale to play wide, and they don't know their clients, and they can't go deep. They lack the capacity to fly their freak flag and let her roll, so you don't find their audience. So that no man's land is the only place that's dangerous. But of course, you guys see this, right, from already. This one plays really well with technology. It loves AI. It loves AI. And this one loves EQ. And so I want to teach you some of the things that I've learned from these entrepreneurs, because ultimately what we've seen is that the masters of EQ, the folks who dominate in this space, they have transferable skills that we can all employ now that this world is changing. So there are laws. Now, this group does not have a secret handshake, but they could. They all seem to share this mindset. They all have an understanding of these laws. And the very first one is this incredible, total commitment to authenticity. Like, completely committed to it. And these folks aren't doing it because they think it's cute or clever. They actually don't even know how to be anything but that. They're not trying to be what the market wants. They're just trying to be themselves. And so who does this really well? I'll give you a story. This is David Rourke, and I love this guy. He is so much fun. David is completely authentic, and he's a wealth manager in Boston. So, I mean, there's like millions of them there. And David has really done well. He's a 7-figure guy. He's done that year after year, and moreover, he has tons of time freedom. But of course, for David, the most valuable thing for him is the pride he has that his clients have become his community. They're his friends. He goes to work laughing. He comes home laughing. He has a ball. Why? Because he's completely authentic when he's there with them. And as a wealth manager, as a retirement expert, he deals with a lot of emotions. And they register that authenticity in him. He breaks all the rules of being a financial advisor. He doesn't sell. He doesn't try to push you to close. He doesn't wear big cufflinks. He wears jeans. He drives a truck. He told me a great story about working for a big insurance company. And he knew then that he wasn't going to be able to fit in here, and he was going to be destined to do this. It was this one single experience, and I think it really formed his basis for leaving and becoming his own entrepreneur, starting his own business. Here he is. He's got a family he's going to go visit with. They have to bring the manager with him, so he's in the living room with the family and the manager from the big insurance company, and it's going well. The family are signing the paperwork. David's making small talk, and David can hear the guy over there kind of tapping away on the calculator. And they get in the car, and David's like, what are you doing? What's with the calculator? The guy was adding his commission in the living room. And that's that industry. And David knew it wasn't for him. So he stepped out, he did his own thing. And the secret of his success is that incredible authenticity, just to tell the truth about what he was. So why don't we all do this? What gets in our way? Because sometimes we don't. Fear, scarcity, the imposter syndrome will get found out. And what can we do about this? Well, you need to know who you are first. You need to know what you stand for. You need to know what your values are. You absolutely have to define your worldview, and you have to find in you the confidence and the faith in the others that are out there, that there is a market for you exactly the way you are. Perfect. You're ready now for that market. Second rule is radical empathy. So the best, they don't talk about clients like their demographics or buyer personas. They don't talk about clients like they are data points. They know these people. They love them. They understand them. They can tell stories about them. They know their fears. They understand their goals. They live to serve them, and they know them. This is a huge difference from this model over here, right? Transaction volume, relationship, masters of the emotional intelligence equation. They are incredibly empathetic. We'd like to think the most successful entrepreneurs are counting their money, Gordon Gekko. No, they love their clients. They care about them. They worry about them. Empathy. So why are we not always empathetic? Like, where do we suck at this? Because we do sometimes. We don't always get this right. What I see is it is a focus on ourselves. It's mind chatter. It's being in the future. It's thinking about the past. It's wondering what we're going to say next. It's thinking, this is going well. It's not being here. So what can you do about that? Remember your mission. Your job is just to bear witness when someone shares with you. Just be the listener. You don't have to talk. You don't have to answer. You don't have to solve it and be clever. You simply need to bear witness to that other human being. That's the secret of empathy. It's hard to do. So mindfulness, breathing, meditation, these are some of the skills these people employ because their busy lives can encroach, and then somebody sitting across the desk is just a number one day. And that's the end of this. So who's doing this really well? My friend Chris is awesome at this. Chris is a total wildcat. He is a civil design engineer down in Asheville, North Carolina. And Chris's world looks like this. Clients from out of town, like doctors, people with money, they come into Asheville and they want to invest. They buy a piece of land and they go to the engineer, they say, make me some plans, and it's kind of like a vending machine type relationship, or so they expect. But you walk into Chris Eller's office and you get a very different experience because Chris will challenge you. He'll say, why? It's impertinent. He'll say, have you thought about doing it another way? Have you considered this? He challenges them. He doesn't just take orders. He doesn't take that subordinate vendor role. He actually plays like a partner. And he co-creates a much better solution with his clients. Why? Why can he do that? Because he totally empathizes with them. Do you know why he empathizes? Because Chris is also an investor. So he's been in that place. He knows what it feels like. You know, you walk in, you got a check, everybody wants your money, everyone's really happy to tell you, oh yeah, it's a great idea. It's like Emperor's New Clothes. Oh yeah, absolutely. And no one will say, no, actually this is a bad idea. Sorry, your baby's ugly. No one will do that. Yeah, but Chris does. And it earns their trust and respect. He gets around the desk with them and they look at the world together. That's being, like having a heart for the client. That's real empathy, is really imagining the situation that they're in and thinking, I'm going to do it differently. And of course, Chris has been wildly successful with this. He's got a waiting list. So why don't we do this all the time? The head chatter. It dehumanizes people. What's the next law? Be humbly irreverent. You know, the characteristic of the entrepreneur, that, you know, rugged individualist, the cowboy out in the wilderness, the gunslinger, you know, there's some truth in that because I think that there's an isolation there, and a lot of my clients are incredibly irreverent about the limitations and rules of their industry. They don't break the law, they don't do harm, but what I mean is, if something stands in the way of their doing the right thing, they just solve it. This model, you respect the rules. This model, you respect the client. This model, you bend, you push, you break, you innovate, you do what's necessary. Being humbly irreverent isn't just about having an attitude. You know, that's not humbly irreverent. Bending and breaking those rules to serve the client is how you honor that contract of trust and respect that you develop. And one of my favorite stories, I saved it to the last, my favorite story about this is about Pat Doe. Dr. Pat Doe is an orthopedic surgeon. And when I got this guy on the phone, you know, I was younger, it was about 10 years ago, and I was kind of arrogant. I just didn't understand it. He was explaining to me about his practice, and he was sharing with me about how he runs this great big practice and all these surgeries that he does. He does shoulders and knees. And all these people come in, and he is so good. He runs it so well, and he spends far less time with each patient than most doctors do. He was so proud of that. I was like, red flags, right? Everywhere. Sounded like a chop shop. Sounded like one of these guys who's paying more attention to the production numbers than the patient. And I was so wrong. I was so dead wrong. It was so cool. I got schooled in Wichita. I go down there and I realize that he has upended all of these stupid and archaic rules of what it means to be a surgeon. He elevates his physician's assistant. They become partners in the care of the patient. And what he does is he puts them in the room first to develop a relationship, and then he stands outside that room and he waits for the PA to come back out, and they coach him on the patient. This is what's going on, and this is their name and how you pronounce it, and their kid's name and their wife's name. And this is what's happened, and this is why their care is going in the way that it is. So that Pat doesn't have to walk in like every other doctor, this infuriating experience. We've all had it. Is that right? And your date, Jim. Yes. Pat doesn't do that. Pat does something that's quite remarkable, and if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I would not have believed it. Here's a guy who's making a ton of money, runs this huge clinic, and I watched him do something, and he did it every single time. I was there for almost a week. Dr. Pat Doe, success story guy, before he walks in to sit down with every single patient, has this little ritual. He'll close his eyes, and he says this little prayer. He says, Pat, you don't need any more money. Just go in there and just be with them. He puts his hand on the door, and he sits down, and he's just with them. He's just present. So he's not treating an elbow. He's not fixing a knee. He's solving an entire human being. He's not adhering to the rules of the surgeon, the almighty surgeon. He's breaking with those. So what do? What's the trap that we fall into? We pay too much attention to the competition. We pay too much attention to our industry. Hey, your industry, I don't care what it is, it's 10 years behind what your clients or your patients need. So if I've learned anything from these 400 entrepreneurs, and all this time I've spent listening to them, is that we're not going to compete with technology. We can't transact fast enough. We're not going to remember all the rules and the formulas. We're just not that good at that stuff. We suck at being robots. But maybe we don't have to. Maybe instead, what we can do is cultivate those extraordinary human skills, develop them, accentuate them. Let's be wildly authentic. Let's be courageous and be ourselves and let her rip. What are we worried about? Let's do it. Let's go ahead and let's be empathetic. Let's remember that the person sitting next to you is somebody's son, is somebody's daughter, that these are people with a story, every single one of them. Remind ourselves of that and stay in the moment and create that kind of unique value that you can if you're with another human being. That's our sovereign opportunity. And finally, let's break any rule that keeps us from doing those things. All of the industry hoo-ha, let's serve. Let's do it extraordinarily well. Look, I don't know what's next. I don't know if any of us do. But what I'm certain of is that whatever's coming for us, whatever it is, it will be our humanity that saves us. Thank you.